Remember GameStop? Buys and sells used games, has an impressive collection of the most worthless mall storefronts in America, and is generally a normal store. Well, this week, GameStop quadrupled in value, despite pretty much nothing changing about their business. They're still in a dying brick-and-mortar industry, they still aren't profitable, and they still will only give you $3 for your copy of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, even though that game is a bona fide classic. So, what's happening? Before we can understand the roller coaster that GameStop investors have been on, we need to understand a few other things first. So, you've probably heard the stock trading advice, buy low, sell high. You want to buy a stock during a dip, wait for the price to increase, then sell it and pocket the difference. Short selling is the opposite of this. Instead of wanting the stock to go up, you want it to go down. Instead of buying low and selling high, you're selling high and then buying low. Let's look at an example to see how this works. Say you're Enol Nux, wealthy investor. The current price of Tesla is $300, but you think that's a little high. You want to short it, that is, bet on the stock to go down. Now there's two things that can happen next, and let's look at how the scenario changes based on those outcomes. 1. Tesla stock goes down. To bet against Tesla, Enol borrows a stock of it from a third party and then immediately sells it, pocketing $300. He still needs to return that stock though, he just borrowed it. And he needs to put some money into a margin account so that the bank knows he's good to buy the stock back. But Enol is right about his prediction, and over the next month, the price dropped to $200. Enol then buys the stock back at the lower price to return to the third party. He now has $100 left over, which is his profit. Now note that here, the best thing that can happen for Enol is for the price to drop to zero. At most, he can make $300. But what if he isn't so lucky? 2. Tesla stock goes up. Enol borrows the stock, sells it, and pockets the $300. But this time he watches in horror as the price keeps climbing up and up. When the stock hits $400, the bank calls.
So about that stock you borrowed, we're a little worried about your ability to pay it back. I mean, it's skyrocketing. We'll need you to put some cash down to make sure you have capital to buy the stock back. Maybe sell your space car?
This is a margin call, and it means you either need to buy the stock back and return it, or put more money in your account as a kind of insurance. And the higher the price gets, the more margin calls you get, and the more money you need to put down just to stay in your position. And the best thing that can happen is that you make $300, but there's no limit onto how much you can lose because there's no limit on how high the stock price can go. Enol sighs and tells his banker to close out the short by buying the stock at $400 and returning it to the owner, just taking the $100 loss. But look at what Enol just did there. He just bought a stock. And you know what happens when you buy a stock? The price goes up. Across town, Beth Bezos gets a call from his banker. He's short-selling Tesla, same as Enol after he got a tip from an inside source. Unfortunately, he's down big as well. And once the price rises to $401, he gives in, closing his position and buying a stock to return, which pushes the price up further. You can see the vicious cycle this creates, and as the price goes higher, short sellers have to pay more just to keep their position. But then they close that position out, that pushes the price up further. This is called a short squeeze, and it's what's happening to GameStop. Short sellers have a pretty bad reputation in the world of finance for a few reasons. They're inherently pessimistic, and by definition, they're making money when everyone else is losing it. It's also something generally that institutional investors or hedge funds do. Short selling isn't available on Robinhood or other apps geared towards individuals. And there were a ton of large institutional investors short on GameStop. And once the masses of people on Twitter and Reddit realized what was happening, they bought in, pushing up the price. The more people that bought in on GameStop, the higher the price would be, and the more pressure there would be on short sellers to close out. This creates an interesting psychological situation where the buyers need to hold together to push up the price, while the short sellers would really like some of these investors to take their gains and leave, which would push the price down. But those who are long on GameStop know that game, and they know that the longer they hold on, the more they are bleeding the short sellers dry, which is very fun because you're making money and you're taking it from rich people. But if you want to see any of that money, eventually you have to sell. The question is when. How long do you hold the line, and when do you cut away? None of this is financial advice. Please don't take it as financial advice. This is a situation where so much is changing. I've had to update this script like 5 times, several times throughout the day as the price has changed. So any information you get from here is already out of date by the time you're seeing it. And I have no money in GameStop, short or long. Just please don't throw all your money away on a meme stock and then blame me.